Hey everyone, it's Suey. I am here to give you a little review about a book I just read and absolutely loved called Project Hail Mary by Weir. This is the same author that wrote The Martian, which I also really loved and lots of people loved, and it became a movie that's really awesome. And I think Project Hail Mary is supposed to become a movie too, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, I thought this book was kind of newer-ish, but I realized that it was actually published in 2021, which feels like kind of forever ago now, 3 years ago. So I'm behind, but I'm glad I finally realized it was even out there, got it on my Kindle and dropped everything else and read it this past week or two and absolutely loved it. Now, the thing about this book that I find interesting is that it is written in a very, very simple way. Like, the writing is so simple. That's the only way I can think of to say it. Like, it's not complicated prose and writing. And I think that is to counteract the fact that it is so full of science. So much science. Very, very detailed science. But done in a simple way that stupid people can actually sort of mostly a little bit understand. Many times I skimmed over the details of the science because all I cared about was the bottom line, whether he was going to succeed in figuring out the problem that he was trying to figure out, or, what the results of the little test were. It was like a gazillion science experiments he had to do on this spaceship. So he wakes up on a spaceship, doesn't remember anything or why he's there, but he gradually kind of starts remembering. And so we flash back between the spaceship stuff, try saying that fast, and, what got him there. So we're flashing back and forth. And so as he remembers, we get to also be in on what's going on. And the problem that Earth is having, which is basically, it's the opposite of global warming, which is that there's this entity that is stealing the energy from the sun. And so there's going to be an ice age really, really soon. So somebody needs to figure this out. And he realizes that's what his job is as he starts remembering things. Well, he has to figure out so many problems as things come up, and our author loves science. We know this, right? And so he goes into much detail, but in the end, it's okay. Like, it doesn't drive me crazy. So even though I skimmed over some of it, I didn't understand most of it, I understood what the problem was. I understood what he needed to do to solve the problem. So it was fun to see how he gets there, right? Even though it feels so much science. I really, really, really loved it. I loved this character. He was a funny, kind of anomaly character. I feel like I've talked before about my feelings about too many cuss words, especially F-bombs in books, and how it needs to feel right to me. There's some books that I've mentioned in the past that I feel like overuse it and more as shock value, I think, or making a point or something, that it didn't really fit the characters. And then there's times I've made a point of saying there's times where there's a ton of F words, but it fits the characters and it doesn't seem like it's wrong, so I can handle it just fine. So then it doesn't bother me at all. And this book was like the other end of the spectrum, where you feel like he should be swearing his head off because of all the problems, and yet this character does not swear, and he uses funny, cute kid swear language. And I think that's because the character is a junior high school teacher, so he's kind of trained himself to respond this way. And so it almost felt weird the other way, where you're like, you should be swearing your head off, but he's not. So I've been enjoying the fact that in the last 3 months or so, I've read books that kind of fit all those different categories. That's not any criticism about the book or the characters. It's just sort of something that I have been finding interesting in myself. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about stuff that I feel like might be spoilers. So if you haven't read this one yet, turn away for a second, and then I will link down below when I feel like it's safe to come back, okay? All right, so spoilers now. As he's flying around in space, he actually comes across another ship that has an intelligent alien being on it that is also trying to solve the exact same problem for his world that our character is trying to solve for Earth. And I was so anxious at this part because most aliens are scary and, not friendly types. Well, this alien was amazingly awesome. Amazingly, I would say adorable, but I don't know that he was actually adorable, but his personality was. And they make fast friends, and our alien is so smart. And the character names him Rocky, and Rocky is so smart. They work together really, really well, and they start figuring things out. And of course, there's always, every time they figure something out, then something else goes wrong. That's just kind of how these books are. And you can picture the movie where you think, oh, it's okay, and then all of a sudden some terrible thing happens again. That's how it is throughout the whole book. Just one thing after the other. And then towards the end, you get so attached to Rocky that I was just like, I know he's going to do something terrible, and it's going to be so sad. And so I was starting to really, really worry about it. And I will totally, well, should I spoil this part since I'm officially in a spoiler section right now? But I got to say that I really, really loved how it ended in the end, even though it still feels very open-ended. And I do feel like we need a sequel. Like, what happens next? Does our guy, his name is Ryland Grace, I think, does he ever go home? Because he ends up, okay, big time spoiler. So please, if you haven't read it and you don't want to know what happens, stop now. Anyway, he ends up on Rocky's planet, and he lives the rest of his life there. And it's really amazing what they do for him. But I really wanted to know if he manages to get back home ever, or what happens. I guess we're to assume that he does not, even though he's still thinking about it. I need to know more. And it would be awesome to know more about Rocky and have like a story about him, because seriously, people, I cannot stop thinking about this book and those characters. Those two characters. There's really only two characters. When he goes back in time, then we get some others, I guess, a little bit. But okay, end of spoiler section right here. So, bottom line, I really, really enjoyed it. I do love these science fiction, spacey stories, and I think, as you know, I'm trying to write my own. And these books make me feel like, why am I going to try? Why? There was so much science explanation in this book that I was just like, oh, in my story, they just get in the spaceship and they just go and they just land and there's, But then I was like, that's how Star Wars is, and nobody is bothered by that, right? So hopefully that's why it's called a space opera and not science fiction. All right, so hopefully I won't get too discouraged about the lack of science in my own book and keep writing it. Okay. Anyway, if you guys love that kind of stuff and you haven't read this one yet, I highly recommend it. And then let's talk. Okay? What have you read that you've loved this month? Let me know down below. Until next time, happy readings. Bye.